Welcome to Wisdom for Nonprofits, bringing the best business wisdom to the nonprofit world. Proven leaders share their experience, insights, and best practices. Finally, a podcast for the busy nonprofit professional. And now, your trusted advisor, Betina Pflug.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Wisdom for Nonprofits. I'm your host, Betina Pflug. As many of you know, our mission here is to empower nonprofits to achieve their goals with efficiency, innovation, and a lot of heart for sure. Today, we're diving into a topic that's becoming increasingly crucial in our sector, the rising demands of compliance, reporting, and administration. Whether you are a small nonprofit just starting out or a large organization with many years of impact, these challenges affected us all. So let's navigate these waters together. The nonprofit landscape has been evolving rapidly, and with that evolution comes a surge in regulatory requirements and administrative duties. This increase is driven by several factors: greater scrutiny from donors and regulations, more complex fund streams, and overreaching needs for transparency and accountability. But don't worry, we are not here to stress you out for sure. We are here to arm you with wisdom and practical strategies to tackle these challenges head on. We have a special guest who exemplifies dedication and leadership in the nonprofit sector. Please welcome Elizabeth Drozd. Elizabeth arrived in Australia 40 years ago as a special humanitarian trend and has devoted the last 30 years to the betterment of culturally and linguistically diverse communities. She is currently the CEO of the Australian Multicultural Community Service and has an impressive background that includes being a Victorian Multicultural Commissioner from 2008 to 2015. In 2022, she won the Aged Care Executive Leader Award and was awarded the Order of Australian Medal in 2023. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. We are also friends, so thank you for being the show here with us today.
You're very welcome, and a warm hello to everyone who is listening.
Elizabeth, your journey and contribution to the nonprofit sector are truly inspiring. To kick off, can you share with us a bit about your background and what motivated you to dedicate your life and supporting to culturally and linguistic diverse communities?
Yes, that certainly will be a pleasure to do. So I came to Australia as a young adult, and I really had to make a decision what I wanted to do with my life here, and not knowing English was certainly quite a significant barrier, which I had to overcome. Hence, I focused on that very significantly in the first 12 months, but also really in the next 2-3 years after arrival. I also started going to school, just learning anything. And after about 6 years, I really made a decision that I wanted to obtain university education. And I spent quite a bit of time going to what was known as the Melbourne Career Reference Centre. And after few months, I've decided that I wanted to do either a Bachelor in Multicultural Studies or Bachelor of Social Work. I got into those two courses, and in the end, I chose to graduate from the Multicultural Studies. And I was interested in this particular area, of course, because of my own lived experience as an immigrant, coming to a new country without any family support, without knowing the language, and in my case, without actually having a profession to rely on. And so I'm so happy with the decision that I've made. When I reflect on the last 33 years that I've spent in community services in various organizations, I just chose the field that connects with my personal and professional values. It's certainly an absolute privilege to be able to work in a caring profession where you can make a practical difference to people's lives and do it every day. Towards the end of my career, I have spent quite a bit of time mentoring other professionals, including those from overseas. I am always happy to share everything that I have learned, and sometimes learning not the easy way. And of course, the best lessons are those that were not necessarily easy experiences. So this is what's happened. But I think also my caring nature and interest in community services and not-for-profits, which is my favorite area and field to be in. I've tried state government and I've tried local government. It was good, but my favorite is the area of not-for-profits. And it is because of what we do, the practical assistance, but also how we stretch every dollar to make a difference to people, and the creativity and innovation and collaboration that exists in our sector. We are all in it together, working towards the same goal, and that's the betterment of societies and communities.
Yeah, talking about communities, I'm not sure if everyone is aware of what the organization do. Can you explain a little bit about what your organization do, and how was your career path with this organization?
Mm-hmm. So I'm the CEO of the Australian Multicultural Community Services. The organization celebrated 40 years of service provision last year. It was established by a very visionary group of individuals, many of them who have had very difficult life experiences, particularly during the Second World War. They were immigrants themselves and refugees, and they partnered with fellow Australians to form this not-for-profit. Our focus has always been on improving people's lives from culturally and linguistically diverse communities. We haven't moved from that, and so that's what we do. As people who are listening may know, Australia is a very multicultural society, so hence the importance of such an organization like ours. And what we also do is help smaller communities who find it difficult to establish their support services. Those communities that are larger, in the case in Melbourne, this is the Indian community, the Chinese community, the Italian and Greek communities were the largest ethnic communities for many, many years. The diversity in Australia is changing. It's quite different now to what it was 40 years ago, hence the importance of responding to the changing needs of communities. So that's what we do. We have changed over the years. Our mission and objectives have never changed, but what has changed is the actual individuals that we support. So in the first probably 5-10 years, the focus was on helping new immigrants with settlement services. And then with time, we started to move into supporting seniors, and particularly those individuals who came to Australia as displaced persons. Today, we would refer to them as refugees. But it's 170,000 who were accepted by Australia during the populate or perish policy that existed in Australia. And they came here following the Second World War, where so many people were stranded in different countries in the world, including in Africa and Europe.
Wow. And how did you started with this organization and became the CEO?
So I applied as a new graduate. When I finished my multicultural studies, I was available to work for an organization, and I applied and was successful. And I was fortunate to be mentored by two very experienced community service professionals, including a manager from the then Department of Immigration. And I used my entire skill set, everything that I had. I never worked 9 to 5. I started with a lot of devotion and commitment, and that meant that I was learning a lot as well by doing a lot, but also, of course, by being supported by those who already worked in the field, and that was so beneficial. And hence, it's one of the reasons why I'm so committed to sharing everything that I have learned and that I know. So I worked for the organization for 3 years. There were somewhat challenging 3 years because I was new to community services. I didn't know everything. And sometimes organizations go through some challenges. And the organization at the time had some challenges. And after 3 years, a colleague from local government encouraged me to apply for a role in Brimbank Council, which is one of the municipalities in Melbourne. And I was successful, and I spent 5 happy years in local government again, but still in line with my professional training. I had an access and equity officer role. I also worked on improving access for people with disabilities and also making sure that council services, local government services, were appropriate for people from various migrant and refugee backgrounds. Then, after 5 years, I was headhunted to return to the Australian Multicultural Community Services, and I've decided I made a promise to myself that I need to last longer than 3 years, and I have been back for 24 years almost. So I have.
Wow.
Because what has helped, of course, is the fact that I was more experienced, so I was able to deal with challenges, better than perhaps the first time. So that's what it's been, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful journey. I have decided not to move to other organizations, whether not-for-profit or private or state or federal bureaucracy, because of the fact that I like the organization that I work for. I like being in the not-for-profit sector. So my approach has been, rather than changing organizations, changing employers, I have decided to work towards AMCS being what I would like it to be. So it's not only that it's taps into my strength and vice versa, but also if we are bigger, if we provide more services, if we secure more funding, or if we are more innovative, that means other people will be interested in joining our team. We can employ more people. Having more staff means we can support more migrants. So this is that's my approach. I've worked on building the organization, and I remember working hard to secure the first $1 million as revenue. Well, this year we will be reaching 34 million. So I am extremely pleased with the progress. And there's no reason why the organization cannot secure $40-50 million. And that means that we can support, at the moment, we support about 2,000 clients every week. There's no reason why we cannot support 3,000 or more.
Wow, that's amazing, Elizabeth. I love what you said. Don't change your work, just change the way things are inside your work. That's really good. And as your work has clearly had a significant impact and change, with your experience, how have you seen the compliance and reporting requirements evolve in the nonprofit sector, particularly on organizations working like yours with diverse communities?
So one of the things that has happened, particularly in the last, I would say, 7 to 10 years, but particularly 7 years, is really the increase in compliance. And the increase in compliance means that staff have to spend more time on paperwork, more time on documentation, more time writing reports. And that means that they have less time to spend with client care. So that's been somewhat difficult. But of course, my role as a CEO, and together with my management team, my role is to find a way out of this and to cope with it and make sure that we can still focus primarily on client care. There's no way out of compliance, because when organizations are government funded, and AMCS is largely government funded, like many and most not-for-profits in Australia, particularly those that provide services, yes. It's different with social clubs, like sports clubs. They are usually run by volunteers. So compliance it's just something that we have to accept, and that is out of our control. But what is within our control is how we manage compliance, how we deal with it. And so my message always is to all staff is what we have to do, we have to do. Let's get it done. Let's do it well. So it's out of our way, and then we can focus on service provision, on innovation. We can use our creativity and collaborate with colleagues and all the really enjoyable activities. Compliance is usually somewhat less, and I can be frank in my view, and because again, as a not-for-profit professional, I can be frank in my assessment and comments. So because the compliance continues to increase and complexity of service provision continues to increase, recently I have communicated a new motto to AMCS team, saying we aim for minimum compliance. We cannot aim for maximum compliance, because it just would mean in practical terms that there would not be enough time left for client care and the things that clients value. And because we are a community service organization, that means we provide services. Therefore, that's what our focus should always be. And that is AMC's mission, which is we improving people's lives through care, support, and empowerment. We do have compliance as one of our organizational values, together with quality, with focusing on clients being first and making sure that we look after our people, our staff and volunteers. But recently we have adopted minimum compliance as our goal and our approach. That doesn't mean that we disregard government legislation. That doesn't mean that we disregard obligations that we have as part of our contractual obligations and service agreements. It just means that we do it in the most efficient and effective way. That's our approach. And I have to say, I was really pleased when 2 days ago we received a quality audit report, which is an independent quality report by the Department of Health, our main funding body, and the word compliant was everywhere in the report, and it's a magic word when you see it. It's compliant, and it's not often that one word can mean so much, because it means basically that the board can be assured, the AMCS board, that everything is done correctly. It gives me a lot of satisfaction, and every staff member, every manager, that we are compliant, and this is how we will continue to do it. But just being very, very mindful that bureaucracy and paperwork cannot take over the majority of our time at work.
And it's clear that these changes, while necessary, can be quite challenging. I heard that there is a decrease of fundings for managing staff, and people want to donate more money to operation and program delivery. How has the Australian Multicultural Service adapted to these demands, like of having less income for administrative support, but having more things to do?
Yes, it's certainly the industry is more and more regulated. Look, it certainly relies on all of our skill sets to find solutions and function well in this environment. And so I always say, let's collectively find a way of the best way of and do what we have to do. So clearly it relies on the professionalism and skills and knowledge. It relies on collaboration. Sometimes we outsource some services, sometimes we broker in some services. It's the collective effort of everyone that in the end results in success.
Those are great strategies. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. And for smaller nonprofits that might not have the same resources, what advice would you give them to manage this administrative burden effectively?
Look, being a small not-for-profit is not easy, and can I just express my empathy to everyone who works in small not-for-profits. And I say that so genuinely and authentically because when I started in 1991, I was the only employee, and the funding was only for 9 months. It was either to close the organization or to revive it. So I know exactly what it's like. And so what's important is really in such situations to focus on what I would describe as the community development part of our work. Yes, even so, I'm speaking generally now, but it's in relation to community services. I divide the work into two areas. One is like casework, which is client work, one-to-one, and the other component is community development. And I recall not helping individual clients as much as I would have liked or would have been able to, because I was very mindful that I needed to have time to do community development, which is for the benefit of sustainability of the organization. And it, when I think back, I'm surprised that as a new graduate, I was very aware of this, and that I made such a right judgment in how I use my time. So I think using community development, what I mean by that is finding partnerships, allocating time to find partners that can benefit the organization and the mission of a small not-for-profit, writing applications for funding, something that can be beneficial long-term. With client work, it's very satisfying, it's important, but at the same time, it's something that can take our entire time, because there's always more and better that we can do for clients. Always. That's been my experience. And juggling one-to-one client care and community development can be challenging. Not everyone can do it. But again, it comes down to the right decisions at the right time and compromises. So I had to compromise on not helping clients. When I think about it, I wasn't comfortable entirely making that decision, but in retrospect, it was absolutely the right decision, because now we can support many more people, and we can support other organizations, the smaller not-for-profits, which we do regularly, because we are now bigger. We can use our scale and the range of staff. At the moment, we employ 270 staff and 130 volunteers support our work. It's easier. It's not easy, but it is easier, and we can simply do more because we are bigger.
Just such a wise advice indeed. Thank you so much. Before we wrap up here, Elizabeth, could you share a success story from your organization that highlights this positive impact and the robust compliance and reporting practices you had?
Look, with so much experience that I have, I'm just wondering which story I can share. Maybe I'll go back. When I think about the success of the organization and my journey, what's most satisfying and what I will miss when I'm not working in community services and working full time, given that I have done so many years already and contributed to community services. It's the camaraderie and solidarity of working in community services with fellow um, colleagues and professionals. It's just absolutely wonderful, and particularly with people from migrant backgrounds. We are from overseas. We have skills that we bring here. We are international experts. So Australia really benefits from that, because all of us come with experience and knowledge. We have different perspectives, but the empathy that we are able to use in our day-to-day work when we meet a fellow immigrant who is struggling to find work, who is newly arrived, our heart and mind and everything that we have and offer and support people. So it's like paying forward and supporting each other, and hopefully those individuals, once given an opportunity to establish themselves, will continue to support others in the future.
That's truly inspiring. Thank you so much, Elizabeth. I think my experience also as an expat helped me so much with my work as a coach. And for sure, you having the challenge from moving from Europe to here, you have a heart for this cause. And congratulations for all the work you have done. You're getting ready to retire, but I'm sure you'll never leave the nonprofit world. You'll be with us forever.
Thank you. That's very true. I think it's once we have been part of it, it will always stay with us, because, of course, it's been such a privilege and it's an honor to work with communities. And I certainly look forward to continue to make a contribution, just in a different way and not on a full-time basis. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you like what Elizabeth had to share, she's also available on LinkedIn. I will put her information on the description of the podcast. Thank you so much, Elizabeth, for sharing your insights and experience with us today. And
you're very welcome. You're very welcome, and all the best to everyone.
Thank you for you, our listeners of Wisdom for Nonprofit. I hope you found this episode insightful and empowering. And if you have any questions or need further guidance, feel free to reach out. Together, we can make a greater impact and continue to drive positive change in our community. Until next time, keep striving, keep thriving, and keep making the difference.
Thank you for listening to Wisdom for Nonprofits. To hear past and future episodes, please subscribe to the show on your favorite podcast channel. We appreciate your reviews and suggestions for future show topics. If you have a question or a suggestion, please write to us at podcast@wity.tech. More resources are available for you at our website, wity.tech. And please join us in the Wisdom for Nonprofits group on LinkedIn. Wisdom for Nonprofits is copyright 2019 by Betina Pflug and wity.tech. All rights reserved.